Have you ever really thought about what it would be like to be a doctor thousands of years ago? We're about to step back in time, right into the sandals of an ancient Egyptian doctor. And let me tell you, it was a world where science, magic, and just pure grit were all part of the job.
Your day? It starts way before the sun. And it's not because you're some kind of morning person. Nope, you just don't have a choice. See, in ancient Egypt, illness and injury, they don't work 9 to 5. And as a doctor, you're always on call. There's really no sleeping in when a fever is spiking or a bone snaps.
So, let's do this. Let's put you in that role. You're the doctor. You're about to walk into a day filled with injuries you can actually fix, infections you can only, well, hope to manage, and problems that kind of blur the line between what's wrong with the body and what's wrong with the soul. Okay, let's start your day.
The very first thing you do is wash. The air is still cool, almost like a quick apology for the brutal heat that's coming. But this isn't just about getting clean. In your world, this is a ritual. It has cosmic importance. And this is what's so fascinating. You're not washing because you know anything about germs or bacteria. That's not even a concept. You're washing because you believe that cleanliness is a form of order. And order is the only thing holding the entire universe back from falling apart into total chaos. So yeah, it's a priestly duty just as much as it is a practical one.
Your position in society is, well, it's complicated. People absolutely respect your knowledge, but they're also watching you. Kind of suspiciously. If a treatment works, you're a hero. If it fails, well, you probably ticked off a god somewhere along the line. So you have to project this aura of total confidence, even when, on the inside, you're anything but sure.
Okay, so the morning rituals are done. Now it's time to get your equipment ready. And there are no gleaming, sterile steel instruments here. Your toolkit is this amazing mix of the practical, the experimental, and some things that are just surprisingly effective.
So what are you actually working with? You gotta forget everything you picture in a modern medical bag. Your tools are made of things like copper, linen, and ingredients that seem to work for reasons you don't fully get, but you trust them. Why? Because you've seen them work.
And this slide just perfectly captures that blend of knowledge and, frankly, luck. Your copper blades, total accidental genius. They cut, sure, but they also seem to stop infections sometimes. No one has a clue why. Honey is your quiet miracle drug. It just works suspiciously well, so you don't ask questions. And those scrolls, they're not textbooks. They're your personal records of survival. This worked, this really, really didn't. You open your door and, yep, someone's already there, waiting. The workday just starts. No ceremony. The first case walks in and right away you know this one's going to be pretty straightforward.
It's a laborer, and his arm is bent in a way an arm should never, ever bend. And honestly, this is kind of a relief. Because unlike some mysterious fever, a broken bone is, well, it's honest. It doesn't hide. You can see it, you know what it is, and you know what to do.
The treatment itself is like a 3-act play. First, you recite an incantation. This isn't for the bone, it's to calm the patient down, to calm his friends down, to calm the whole room. Then comes the tough part. You set the bone. It makes this dull, wet sound that just makes everyone freeze for a second. And finally, you bind it all up, super tight, with a splint and some resin. Practicality and ritual, working together.
Now, when you set that bone, the patient is going to cry out in pain, but you do not apologize. You can't. In your line of work, an apology is a sign of weakness. It invites doubt. Your confidence is just as important a tool as your splint. Any hesitation on your part is way more dangerous than the pain itself.
All right, the next case is much more worrying. It's a leg wound, and it's red, and it's swollen, and it's hot when you touch it. You don't have a word for infection, but you know these signs. You recognize this danger instantly. And this is where things get really unpredictable. This is where your skill can only take you so far, and you just have to hope that luck is on your and your patient's side.
But hey, not every patient comes in with an injury you can see. Sometimes the problem is something that medicine, on its own, just can't fix. And that brings us to our next person.
He comes in and he tells you he's exhausted, he's having these weird dreams, and he just feels off. There's no wound to clean, no bone to set. This is exactly where your job as a doctor kind of passes the baton to religion, and you become part of a team. And see, this is the key thing to get. Medicine and magic, they're not fighting each other. They're co-workers. You look at him and you diagnose exhaustion, probably a bad diet. A priest might come in and say a god is unhappy with him. And you know what? Both are seen as totally valid explanations. So the treatment covers both bases. You give him herbs for his body, and the priest gives him ritual words for his soul.
As the morning rush starts to die down a little, you do something that really separates the professionals from the amateurs. You sit down with a fresh papyrus scroll and you write.
Now these notes, they're not for history books, they're for survival. You write down the case, what you did, and what you think will happen. This slow, careful collection of observations is how medicine actually gets better. You don't have grand theories, you just have patterns. And yet, you know deep down that laborer probably isn't going to rest his arm like he's supposed to.
Taking notes is a nice, quiet moment of reflection, but it doesn't last. The afternoon brings a whole new wave of patients. These are usually the ones who spent all morning trying to ignore their problems until they just couldn't anymore.
And then a case that always hits you hard, a child with a fever. You see the terror in the parents' eyes, and that look, their trust in you, is a heavier burden than any medical text you've ever read. You have to work calmly, because you know your tone is just as important as your treatment, and you also know the outcome is completely, terrifyingly uncertain.
As the last patient finally heads home, your day ends exactly how it began, with the cleaning ritual. You wash your hands, you clean your tools, and it's not just about hygiene, it's about restoring order to your space, to your mind. Because if you leave things in chaos, you know that chaos will stick around.
You know, people look at you and they think you have all the answers. But you know the truth. You don't have answers. What you have are a few tools you can trust, a growing list of experiences from days just like this one, and, well, the simple, powerful discipline to just keep on trying.
And that really is what it was all about. Being a doctor in ancient Egypt, you weren't some magician, you weren't a miracle worker, you were a professional, someone using careful observation and genuine care to push back against pain and all that uncertainty. And in a world that was just beginning to figure out how the human body even works, that was no small thing at all.